At this point, the United States is looking at a grim economic picture.
Before you pull out that credit card today, beware. If you don't pay it off in full, your interest rate is probably about to jump. The Federal Reserve, the nation's central bank, is expected to raise rates by a quarter point today as it tries to throw cold water on runaway inflation.
Every time you go and shop, a price of something has gone up by so much. It's insane.
Every American shopper has seen it firsthand. Clothing up 6.5%, food up 8.5%, electricity up 9%, used cars up 41%, and gasoline up nearly $1.50 from a year ago.
Milk, flour, sugar, cartons of oil, like frying oil, that's been insane. That's tripled in price. So that's been crazy.
The highest inflation in 40 years.
Highest inflation in 40 years. Those are the official numbers, which of course bear no resemblance to the day-to-day reality. Everything is much more expensive, and that's especially true of the big things. The big things are the most expensive of all. And why is that? Simple. The declining power of U.S. currency has created an unprecedented asset bubble. That means investors around the world are rushing to convert increasingly worthless U.S. dollars into objects that might hold value over time. So anything tangible costs a lot more than it did a year ago. And there's no mystery in this. This is exactly what happens when you pump too much money into an economy. The money becomes worth less. So where is this going? How is it going to unfold? Nobody believes the interest rate rises we're seeing will get inflation under control quickly. So what happens? Well, at some point, consumers will begin to run out of cash to spend. Assets will become too expensive to buy, and the average person will have less money to buy them. At the same time that prices are rising, so are taxes. Property taxes are rising in many places in tandem with the real estate bubble. So even if you didn't buy a new house, you will suffer because of that. State income taxes have risen dramatically in places like New York. So they're getting it from both ends, and that means that some people, maybe a lot of people, will start to go broke. And as they do go broke, they'll be forced to curtail what they buy. In an economy driven largely by consumer spending, this is a very scary trend. When people stop buying things, the crash comes. So you can see very clearly where this is going. Everyone in Washington understands exactly where it's going. But instead of taking real steps to fix it, like stop writing these massive spending bills, they're taking everything they can, all the money still on the table, while there still is money. Janet Yellen, the Secretary of the Treasury, declared last week, for example, that, quote, we must redouble our efforts to decarbonize our economy. So what does that mean exactly? How do you decarbonize an economy? Well, by spending trillions of new stimulus spending on renewable energy schemes that, by the way, are owned by the Chinese government and Democratic donors. See how that works? You pass the cash around while it still exists. Another name for this is looting. It cannot go on forever by definition. Because if the economy tanks, everything resets, not just the economic questions. There could be genuine social and political volatility. Our current conversation can only happen in a country that still believes itself to be rich. But once the country doesn't think it's rich, everything changes. This tells you exactly why our leaders seem so jumpy. It's why they're more determined than ever to move the conversation away from economics, no talking about economics, and toward questions of race and obscure sexual politics. Every new moral panic they create, and they create them by the dozens, diverts attention away from themselves.
Olá pessoal, tudo bem? Aqui é o Tradutor, é graças a essas pessoas incríveis que eu posso estar trazendo conteúdo para vocês. E é isso aí pessoal, não se esqueçam de deixar seu like, seu comentário e até mais. Fui, grande abraço.